Hello there and welcome to Purple Night Games. So the big Dataslate drop is going to happen anytime soon. It is imminent. So the questions are, what rules are going to be changed and where will this leave Genestealer Cults? Hello there, welcome back to Purple Night Games, and we look ahead to the big Dataslate drop. What rules are going to change? Because this is a rules and a points update. So what are they going to change? I'm going to focus on the general rules, and then I'm going to look at Genestealer Cult. I'm not going to look at every faction, because I only play Genestealer Cult, and they're the only ones I really understand in 10th edition. I understand a little bit on AdMech and Imperial Guard, but I will leave that to others who know a lot more than me on those armies. So, what is the balance status they're going to bring? Are they going to balance it and bring actually some rules back up to date? Well, let's discuss. Because they need some big changes to the rules in some areas. Generally, the game is running and it's running okay, but some rules seem to have got forgotten. And the first of those rules, which I think has been forgotten a bit, is Battle Shock. Now, I made the prediction at the beginning of 10th edition that Battle Shock was going to be this big rule that was going to be very important, and armies that could control Battle Shock, be resistant, and put out Battle Shock tests to the opponent would be the ones that would benefit and be at the top of the meta, because they're the ones that could gain points and the others couldn't. And that hasn't happened. I've been completely wrong. Battle Shock doesn't really work. It does, but it doesn't. It touches a little bit on what it's supposed to do. Ideally, once your troops are broken, it reduces your OC. You can't control points, but you can potentially still do other things. And I find, on the whole part, you either don't break, you can use CP to stop yourself from breaking, or you lose the whole unit. Its OC is so small that the enemy units around there are going to beat its score regardless of whether it passes its Battle Shock test or not. But one of the big problems around Battle Shock is the fact that if you're using the ability to make tests and those units fail the tests in your opponent fail the test in your turn, they automatically rally on their turn, which is just all seems a bit silly, and that is one of the things I would fix. Have them retest, or that unit automatically rallies after points are scored, because that way it makes a bit more of an impact of Battle Shock. Will they make this change? I don't know. I think it's a bit of a 50-50 whether how much they tinker with Battle Shock. But one thing they are looking at doing, I think, which will play a big part into Battle Shock, is what you can do with units that have 0 OC. Now, it's been a thing for the whole of 10th edition where if you use Spore Mines or Nurglings, units that have 0 OC, you just throw them out the battlefield and get them doing actions and gaining secondary objective points. And Games Workshop have that flow because it's mainly demons and Tyranids, armies that are out around about the mid or the lower mid of the meta. So it seems Games Workshop are going to change this. There was a leak on Auspex Tactics channel, and they had a leak. They covered a leak which stated that this was likely going to be changed. But is it a wish list or is it a true leak? They stated that they don't really know. But it looks like they are going to make changes to units that have 0 OC. Whether it's units that become 0 OC or start as 0 OC, I think that's a bit more open to interpretation. We'll have to see what Games Workshop do. But it's looking like they're going to remove them the ability to do secondaries or do actions to stop them from getting secondary points and being so effective in that manner. So it looks like 0 OC spam with certainly things like Spore Mines and Nurglings could be coming to an end. Now, the other rule that needs to be looked at is gambits. I have never seen anyone use a gambit. I've never used one. I don't know anyone else who has. And people that have used them, or I know of using them through other people, have done them and they've not been successful. I mean, to basically have a rather hard scenario thrown at you to gain 30 experience points when you're already in a losing position is always going to be difficult. I mean, that's why it's called a gambit. It's trying to keep the game. The idea was to try and keep the game interesting, but does it work? Because when you're already in that big losing position, you're likely to lose more than 30 XP. or you haven't got the units to have a chance of doing what the gambit says. So you almost think, well, I'm more chance of getting points with secondaries. I may as well keep trying to get secondaries, or do some more battlefield control to lessen the defeat, to try and get close to my enemy. But you're not going to have a hope of winning. The one thing you could do is just change gambits. So rather than you getting these points for completing the gambit, the game ends in a draw. That way, your opponent, who's already ahead on points, has to then start playing defensively to try and stop you from doing this gambit. And if you complete the gambit, you won't win. That's the big drawback. But it stops your opponent from winning, which could be quite interesting on the competitive scene. So those are the rules I think really need addressing, and we'll see if Games Workshop address those in the balanced data slate. Now we're going to look at Genestealer Cults and hopes and expectations that I have for the balanced data slate. So looking at units I expect to change, I don't expect any rules changes. They nerfed the ambush rule. I don't find it very effective now, but I don't think any changes will be made to it. Achilles Ridge Runners, I think these are going to go up by at least 5 points. Possibly 10, which I think would be a bit harsh. 5, I would expect. It's just the way they've been used. They are being used as indirect fire weapons, mainly to spam out crossfire to get better armor penetration in certain units. So with the quite heavy use in competitive games of mortars, I'd expect maybe these to go up by about 5 points. Now I'm going on the icon mod here, but really I expect with a few of the characters, icon mod itself is 50 points, which just seems a little high for what they do. It gives a whole unit feel no pain, and he has this once per battle ability where you can bring back a ambush token that's been quite diminished. It's not so much of a decent rule anymore. My big problem is when I've been making Imperial Guard lists and looking at other people's armies, they have characters. I mean, for example, Iron Hand Strachan is 55 points, only 5 points more expensive than Icon Ward. He buffs a unit of Catachans and is pretty handy in combat. Yeah, the Icon Ward has some good rules. He does no shooting, and his combat is, well, it's above average for a Acolyte, but it's really quite mediocre. No damage output at all. And that's the problem with a lot of the Genestealer Cult characters. They're high in price because of combos they can do, and not on what the actual character itself can do. Which is a bit pants when it comes down to 1-on-1 and you have absolutely no ability to fight back. For all these are supposed to be combaty army. Genestealers are hard hitting in combat, but it's not really reflected in characters. Whereas Space Marines, even Imperial Guard and other armies, their characters are a bit more hard hitting. Certainly not hard hitting, then their abilities are really good. And some of the Genestealer Cult characters, their abilities are good, usable, but do question the balance of compared to characters, actions, armies. Goliath Rockgrinder is, well, it seems hard hitting, it has decent weaponry. It's a bit of a nice way of having a heavy transport. We can get into combat, but it's a bit weak for what it can do. Only 10 wounds and toughness 10, it's a bit tinfoil, a couple of anti-tank weapons into it, and it sort of dissipates, which is very expensive for 155 points. The same point cost as Alien Rush Vanquisher. Now, I know the Vanquisher weapon is not the most desired in the Imperial Guard Codex, but to have a Lehman Russ stat line with its weaponry, same points cost as a Rock Rider. So I think these guys just need to come down in cost. I would say about 20 points, get them in the region of being taken, of being actually worth the points cost. Goliath trucks have the same sort of issue. They are transports, only toughness 9, wounds 10. They're the same sort of stat line as Chimeras and Rhinos, and yet these guys are 110 points. Chimeras 70 points. So there is a 40-point disparity here. Yes, the weaponry in the Goliath truck is better, and it's the cash of demolition charge I think that really ramps the cost up. I'd prefer that demolition charge cash to be reduced, and for these guys to be 80, 70, 80 sort of points. However, the rumours are that rhinos are going up in costs, so maybe it's more a case of other transports will go up in costs and come more to meeting the Goliath truck. Even so, I think this could do with going down by 10 or 20 points. Now, I like metamorphs, and I do use them. I mean, the scout moves can be useful, and you can get a bit of variation in combat. The problem is if you want infantry combat killers, you can go to Genestealers because they're faster moving, they can advance and charge, and you get lots of alpha strikes off with them. 2 wounds, better armor save. If you want something hard hitting, you go with Aberrants or Acolytes. In fact, even with Acolytes in combat, you can get both infantry killing, the normal guys, or the hard hitting stuff with mining weapons. All of a sudden, when their battle line, when you've talked all that up, metamorphs are sort of there. They seem to need more of a purpose. A points drop would be useful, but I just think these guys need to be repurposed now. They just seem to take up slots of more useful units. Maybe a change to their ability rule might help. Making them a bit more feisty. I'm not sure what you could do with it, but just a bit making them a bit more feisty, more usable. You could increase the scout move. I think that again that has them moving it's the same speed as bikes, which probably isn't what you need to be doing. Or just changing maybe their melee output, making them a bit more niche in one way or the other. But certainly, I think dropping 5 points for 5 models or 10 points for 10 models or point model essentially helpful. First of all, the thing that needs to change with the Jackal Alphas is its save. I keep checking, and it's still save 5. Surely it should be changed to +5. Because at the moment you roll a 6 and technically you don't save. yeah, this needs fixing, and whether it gets fixed, I don't know. Surely it should do. The Jackal Alphas is just really lackluster. Since have changed the Jackal's rules, so you can't just do demolition charge with movement, then given an extra normal move per unit, just doesn't really seem to have any sort of impact like it once did. I really think they just need abilities which really buff the bike units. The Jackals themselves as a unit are okay, not great, but they're not expensive either. Not that expensive either. I just think that the Jackal Alphas, for the price you pay, it's got a mediocre sniper rifle that's one shot, and yeah, it gives the reheal rolls of a 1. Oh, brilliant! Brilliant. No, it's not great. It's not great, and it needs a bit more love. The Jackal Alphas, and I think just buffing up Jackals better, giving them devastating hits, lethal hits, sustained hits, and something. Just something, just to give it a bit more. Just a bit more, really. The Magus just need attention. I don't know anyone who takes the Magus anymore. They used to be the first unit on my sheet in 8th and 9th edition, but they were good. The mind control ability of only having a 12-inch range is very poor. You've got to get close to actually use it. The feel no pain against psychic attacks is very niche. And yeah, that's about it really. What else do you have? It can hit something with its stave, but it's not really great in combat. Only a 5+ save and 3 attacks. Like setting the wall on fire in combat. The Magus just needs some love. Certainly needs dropping in cost. It just where do we go? It needs some ability buffs and a points drop, and maybe the Magus might be useful. They might be saving it for Codex. Make the big changes. Just dropping the cost for now would be useful. Neophytes, this is a hope. This is a big hope and a dream, but I can't see it happening. They're just so expensive. 90 points for 10 models. When you look at, in fact, Catachan's 55 points. And when these guys went up in cost, because they can lay out a good time, not an awful unit, but essentially they are guardsmen. Okay, yes, they can take four special weapons and four heavy weapons in a 20-man unit. Guard can't do that. But Imperial Guard are very much put that out. But essentially they are guardsmen in profile. And yet you're getting like fire skins. You get things like fire warriors, obviously Imperial Guardsmen, and cultists, and other units of similar or roundabout stat lines. Your main sort of rank and file troops that's so much cheaper than these guys. And when you look at the last nerf hammer, so I was referring to it last time, when they got nerf hammered last time round, they got increase 90 points for 10. And when so many armies got decreases, this really hurt. And you've got to take them. They're still mass taken because what else do you take? This is your rank and file. This is your shooting damage. This is your guy that pop up and do things. These do your secondaries, do your primaries. They are absolutely integral to the army. You can't do anything other than take a lot of them. Because they are heavily taken, because they can do some decent combos, I doubt they'll have any changes at all, but I just think they need to drop back down to 80 points per 10 rather than 90 points per 10. So a point a model. It'll really help. And I always go run 4 blobs of 20 of these. You're going to be saving a decent amount of points, like 80 points saved, which is another character or a small unit. I just think they just need dropping. The Nexus, he had a points increase last time around, but was also hit with the rules change. Only battlefield stratagems could actually be used rather than any stratagem. So you couldn't use perfect ambush. You couldn't use tunneling stratagem twice in a turn using with one unit with fuck off. So you couldn't use a tunneling stratagem twice in one turn with your acolytes with demolition charges because you could no longer use that stratagem for free. I mean, it's good for getting perfect ambush, and I can't think of anything else. Good getting perfect ambush for free, but that's about it. It's really made the Nexus quite from one of the better characters to take in addition. It's been very mediocre, and in terms of stat lines, they don't do combat, they don't have shooting. It's just their abilities and points they cost. I think they could do with dropping by 5 or 10 points. Redactor Saboteur will go up in cost 65 points, but you get a ballistic skill 2 demolition charge, indirect fire, and you're getting explosives left, right, and centre. The grenade stratagem for free as well as an ability for once per battle to take out mortal wounds. They're heavily taken, they're spam taken. I try to take 2 of them now when I'm doing Genestealer Cult lists. They're a great model, good character, and they probably are going to go at least 5 or 10 points. Again, it's becoming expensive, and if your opponent counters them early, they're out of the game, they're not as useful, but generally there's a lot of character. These are fantastic, are heavily taken. I can't see anything other than being nerfed a little bit in their points cost. So we have it. The Dataslate is imminent. It's probably going to be this week, or if not next week, beginning next week. So we'll see. Have to see. Hopefully, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I do address some of these rules, and that Genestealer Cult do get a little bit of a buff, because it has been a bit difficult since the big nerf hammer was wielded last summer. Anyway, let me know what you think. What do you expect changes are going to be made to Genestealer Cults, and what buffs are you looking forward to, or would really hope that get made? Megas. And what would you expect? And what rules do you expect to be changed? Leave comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.